This radio program is PG-13. Parents strongly caution some material may be inappropriate for children under the age of 13.
The following program is sponsored by Michael W. Smith. The views expressed on the following program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership.
Phoenix, Brother Mike, back on the radio. Welcome to HardcoreChristianity.com. Thanks for tuning into the program. Welcome to the Arizona Deliverance Center. Today's Bible study, The War of the Worlds. Today on Hardcore. Hey, call somebody and tell them the radio program's on. This one's going to be kind of wild. I'll make a couple announcements while you make that call. Thanks for your help. This is Brother Mike. I am the professional counselor at the Arizona Deliverance Center, downtown on 15th Avenue, just south of Osborne Road. It's the red brick building. Been a counselor for over 40 years here in Maricopa County. All of our ministry services are on the website, hardcorechristianity.com. My Sunday morning podcast is at 9 o'clock. We have a worship service at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every Sunday with communion, followed by deliverance service. You can contact me at Mike at hardcorechristianity.com and get all the information about our 3 Zoom services every week, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. We have live services every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday night is Ladies' Night. Starts at 6:30. Thursday and Friday starts at 7. We have a monthly healing service on the last Friday of every month. That thing is spectacular. Please bring somebody that needs to be healed. You'll be absolutely shocked when they go home. We also have a Speaking in Tongues class on Friday nights at 6 and Saturdays at 4:30. If you can speak in tongues and you're able to sing in tongues, come for worship. It is really, really something special. The War of the Worlds. Check this out. In 1898, an author named H.G. Wells wrote a book called The War of the Worlds. It was about Martians invading the planet Earth. It was a #1 bestseller. And then in 1939, a guy named Orson Welles had a radio program, and he did a radio show on the War of the Worlds. And he presented the program as if he were a reporter reporting an invasion from Mars. And to his utter amazement and everybody else's, it worked. America actually believed this show was #1 radio program in the entire country at the time. And the people actually believed we were being invaded by Martians. It sent terror and panic across the United States. Absolutely phenomenal. This radio program was a landmark program in radio, and people really thought the Martians were coming. They really did. And Orson Welles was extremely convincing as a reporter describing what these Martians were doing and how they were invading the United States. You know something? Christianity doesn't work very well in the United States, does it? It's kind of a bummer. The churches are weak. The pastors are mush. And the reason for all of that is a simple one. The Bible teaches that Christianity is a war and that spiritual warfare is real. And unfortunately, church denominations, evangelicals, and the rest don't see it as a war. They kind of see Christianity as a hobby. You know, they live their own lives. They do their own thing. Sunday they come in, have a sermon. They sit and listen. They make some donations. They put money in the plate. You know, they go to a Christmas program, different things like that. But they don't see Christianity as a war, a true war. And it really is a spiritual war. Paul told the Corinthians in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, though we walk after the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. Warning. He mentioned the word war. 1 Timothy chapter 1, Paul said to his protege, he said, "This charge I commit to you according to the prophecies that went before you, that you through them might war a good warfare." The great apostle Peter said in 1 Peter chapter 2, "Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, you need to abstain or stay away from fleshly lusts which war against the soul." Fleshly lusts war against the soul, Greek word psyche. Each person is born with a soul, and it is eternal. The soul is the seat of your emotions. That's where your emotions come out. For example, love, for example, hate. All comes out of your soul. And Peter said, fleshly lusts, the sin that you get in with your body, the lust of the flesh, food, sex, drugs, alcohol, what have you, affects your soul. It affects your soul. And you can see that Christianity is clearly a war because Satan sees it as such. In the Garden of Eden, he tricked Eve and he intimidated Adam into sinning, and he knew it was wrong when he did it, into eating the fruit and disobeying God. You could eat the fruit of any tree in the garden, but there was one tree in the garden you could not eat fruit off of. God explained that to Adam in no uncertain terms, and he stood right there and watched Satan trick Eve, and then she gave him a bite of the fruit, and he wanted to make her feel accepted and comfort her, and he took a bite of it. When he did, he murdered the rest of us. Every soul, from that moment until the rapture of the church, dies. Every single soul. He was the biggest murderer in history and the biggest failure in history, with one exception, Judas Iscariot. But if you look through the book of Revelation, you'll be absolutely shocked. The word war is used several times. Revelation 13 mentions Satan warring against the saints. In Revelation 19, it mentions Armageddon and the war involving Armageddon. In Daniel chapter 10, the great prophet is praying, and there was, unbeknownst to him, war in heaven. And it took 21 days for him to get an answer from God, because the angel sent to Daniel to bring him the answer got engaged in a war that delayed him for 3 weeks. He was unable to win it on his own, and apparently Michael the archangel came along and helped him battle through it. It was a war, friend. Christianity is a war. And if you don't see it that way, you're going to approach it casually. If you approach it casually, the devil's going to take you. How's he going to take you? Well, your daughter is going to have an unwanted pregnancy. Your son's going to become an addict. You're going to get divorced 2 or 3 times in life. You're going to go broke a couple times. All kinds of bad, ugly, filthy things are going to happen to you because you didn't see Christianity as a war. You saw it as a hobby. You kind of see it as something that, it's all good. Really? No kidding. The War of the Worlds. The people listening to that broadcast on the radio with Orson Welles, they were panicking because they thought the war had actually begun. Satan sees it as a war, friend. He sees it as a war. He fights like it's a war. But Christians don't. They approach it casually. That's why the devil is dominating the planet Earth and why he's dominating the churches. Why is that? Because Satan sees this thing as a war. Demons see it as a war. And they fight with fury. They fight with fury to stop you, to get you to become lukewarm, to get you to lose your first love, to get you to sin. They'll do anything and use any method to dominate you. Jesus saw it as a war. Do you remember that? He went to the temple 3 different times in his ministry. Took a whip and threw the money changers out of the temple. Vicious. It was nasty. He ran them all out. He overthrew their tables and their merchandise, went flying everywhere. He let the doves go. They flew out. I mean, he kind of went ballistic spiritually. Some preachers call that righteous indignation, but you got to remember, Jesus saw this thing as a war, and he knew Satan did. Satan saw it as a war. And when you see something as a war, you're deadly serious about the outcome. All you care about is winning when you see it as a war. One day Peter came up to Jesus, Mark chapter 8, and took him aside, physically took him aside. After Jesus had told him he was going to be arrested, murdered, and raised the third day, Peter took him aside, really grabbed him. Greek word proslambano. It says Peter took him and began to rebuke Jesus. The Greek word for rebuke there is the same Greek word, epitomao, used to describe rebuking demons. Peter grabbed Jesus physically and took him aside and began to rebuke him. Can you imagine that? Well, what was really happening there? Satan had taken over Peter's mind through fear. And 9 times out of 10, Satan and demons always work through fear. And they took over his mind, started speaking out of his mouth. Have you ever seen a demon do that? Well, that's what happened. And Jesus rebuked him and said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Jesus made it to Calvary because he saw it as a war. And the spoils of the war were your soul. Our souls were the spoils. The devil wanted them, and the Lord Jesus wanted them. And they fought it out physically and intellectually and spiritually. And 3 days later, he rose from the dead. Christ won the war. Now it's time for you to step up this year in 2026 and fight back. See you next time.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership. This program was sponsored by Michael W. Smith.